So if you want to escape a toxic environment, the absolute worst thing you can do is stand up for yourself.
I mean, it sounds completely backward, doesn't it?
It really does, like totally backward.
Yeah, because everything in our culture, tells us to fight back, to speak our truth, demand respect, all of that.
Right.
But in certain environments, demanding respect is actually the exact mechanism that keeps you trapped.
It keeps you completely locked in. And today, we are looking at a really profound roadmap from our stack of source material. And it deals with a very specific and honestly often completely invisible structural reality.
Hmm.
We are dissecting the incredibly complex emotional and logistical maze of leaving a family home where the power dynamic is just fundamentally unequal.
Yeah, it's a huge undertaking.
It is. We're talking about environments where there is what the material calls unconscious abuse. So our mission today is to figure out, how people actually find independence, how they manage the overwhelming guilt of walking away, and how they rebuild their entire sense of self from the ground up.
Because when you grow up in an environment where your reality is just constantly being shaped by someone else's moods
Right.
or, someone else's control, learning to trust your own mind again is an enormous undertaking. I mean, it requires completely dismantling how you view relationships.
Absolutely. And I want to be really clear right out of the gate here. Even if you, listening right now, aren't currently living with your parents, this deep dive is an absolute masterclass in understanding power
Oh,
dynamics.
totally.
It's a blueprint for how we reclaim our autonomy in literally any controlling environment. Okay, so let's
Yeah.
unpack this. Before we get into the actual logistics of leaving, this term unconscious abuse kind of trips me up a bit.
Sure.
Does that mean the parents or the, controllers in the situation just don't realize they are being manipulative? Or is it about the victim being kind of asleep at the wheel and not realizing they're being abused?
Well, it leans much more heavily toward the former, though. I mean, it obviously affects both. When we hear the word abuse, we almost always picture like a villain, intentionally plotting to destroy someone's life.
Right, like a movie villain.
Exactly. But unconscious abuse is often just a product of structural entitlement.
Structural entitlement.
Yeah. The people in power, so in this case, the parents or the heads of the household, they genuinely believe they're just running their family.
Oh, I
They
see.
view their subtle put-downs or their constant criticism or even their emotional manipulation as just parenting or, caring.
Like they're doing a good job.
Right. They are unconscious of the damage because the power dynamic shields them from ever having to reflect on their behavior. I mean, they don't have to change because they hold all the cards.
Which brings us back to that counterintuitive hook we started with. If you finally realize you are enduring this, the natural human instinct is to argue, right? Like you want to prove to your family that they are wrong.
Overs.
You want them to admit that they are treating you unfairly.
The urge to vindicate yourself is incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
It really is. But you have to separate your emotional anger from your literal logistical dependence.
Right.
Because if you are relying on these exact same people for rent, for groceries, for your cell phone bill,
Yeah.
or even just transportation to get to your job, the dynamic is rigged. The person who controls the material foundation of your life naturally holds the power in the relationship.
That makes so much sense.
So your emotional rebellion doesn't actually change that structural reality. It just causes friction.
It really makes me think of playing a game of chess.
Okay, yeah.
Like trying to win an argument against a family that controls your basic needs is like playing chess against someone who literally owns the board and all the pieces.
Yes, exactly.
You might play a brilliant game, you might outmaneuver them logically, you might have the absolute perfect argument. But if they get mad, they can just flip the board over.
They just flip it over.
The game is over, and you're the one left sitting on the floor picking up the pieces while they go sleep in a house that they own.
That is the perfect way to visualize it. And adult children in these environments almost always fall back into childhood roles
Right.
because of that very dynamic.
Right.
The text lists these roles beautifully, actually. You become the one who endures, or the one who reads the room, the peacemaker.
The peacemaker, yeah.
Even if you have a full-time job and you're making your own money, as long as you are living in their domain, on their chessboard, you just default to the role they assign to you.
I want to pause here for a second because if someone is listening to this in their childhood bedroom right now, hearing that they shouldn't fight back probably feels incredibly defeating.
I'm sure it does.
It sounds like giving up. Like, does staying quiet just mean the abusers win?
See, that is the trap. Trying to convince someone who holds all the structural power that they are abusing you is just going to drain your energy. It leads to massive emotional burnout because you are fighting a battle on a field they control. I mean, they aren't going to suddenly wake up and say, you know what? You're right. I've been emotionally manipulating you for 20 years. My apologies.
Right, that's just never going to happen.
Never. The true goal shouldn't be to defeat your family or to, like, win the argument.
What does winning actually look like then?
Winning is reaching a state where your family's attitude can no longer restrict your life choices.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, winning isn't about making them see the truth. Winning is about getting to a place where their version of the truth no longer dictates your reality. It's about quietly removing yourself from the blast radius.
Okay, so if fighting is off the table and you realize the environment is fundamentally rigged against you, why is it so mentally difficult for people to just walk away?
That's the big question.
Right. I mean, I'm struggling with the memory aspect of this. If an environment is truly toxic, wouldn't you just hate them and want to get out immediately? Like, why do people stay stuck for years?
Well, we have to look at the psychological mechanisms at play, specifically the cognitive dissonance created by conflicting memories.
Okay.
Human relationships are incredibly complex, and biology actually plays a huge role here. The nervous system in a high-stress environment becomes accustomed to a cycle of tension and release.
Wait, so the biology actually keeps you stuck?
Absolutely. When you live in a constant state of hypervigilance, walking on eggshells, constantly reading the room to make sure no one is about to explode.
Yeah, just constantly on edge.
Right. Your body is flooded with stress hormones, then suddenly there's a good day. Like a really fun birthday party or a great family dinner where everyone is laughing, a moment where a parent is genuinely supportive. The sudden release of tension floods your brain with dopamine,
Wow.
and it creates an incredibly powerful trauma bond.
That makes total sense. And a single good memory can make the person feel like their suffering is entirely invalid. They think, well, my mom bought me this amazing birthday cake and we had a great time, so I must be exaggerating how bad she treats me the rest of the week.
Yes.
So what do we do with that? Do we just pretend the good stuff didn't happen to make the process of leaving easier?
Well, what's fascinating here is how the text addresses this exact dilemma. It points out that you do not have to paint your entire past in one solid color of pure evil to justify leaving.
Okay.
Good memories do not erase the weight of being hurt, and painful times don't make the fun moments a lie. The material argues that you must learn to hold both truths simultaneously.
Like, we had some really good times, and this environment is currently destroying my mental health.
Precisely. You remove the pressure of having to prove that your family is objectively monstrous before you're allowed to leave.
Right. But this brings up another really insidious part of unconscious abuse. It is often totally invisible to outsiders.
Oh, completely invisible. It lives in the micro-denials, the ignoring, the subtle shifts in tone. To a neighbor or a coworker, your family might look completely normal.
Or even exceptionally loving.
Yes, exactly.
And if you try to explain it to a friend, you just sound completely irrational.
Yeah, you do.
Like, you say something like, well, my mom sighed really heavily when I walked into the kitchen and she started, aggressively washing the dishes.
Right.
And your friend is just sitting there thinking, okay, so she was washing dishes. Like, what is the big deal?
Exactly. They don't hear the threat.
Right. But to you, that sigh and the clinking of the plates, that is threat level red.
Yeah.
It means a blow up is coming, or you are being punished for something you don't even know you did. But because it's invisible to everyone else, the victim is constantly questioning their own sanity.
And because no one else can validate your reality, you have to become your own witness.
Your own witness.
Yes. This is a vital step in recovery. The author suggests a very practical exercise, writing down facts and feelings.
Okay.
Documenting who said what, how you felt in that exact moment, what physical sensations you had in your body, and what you had to endure or suppress afterward.
Not to build a court case against them, though, right? But just to prove to yourself that you aren't making it up.
Exactly. When you write down, they gave me the silent treatment for 3 days because I came home 10 minutes late, and I felt terrified to leave my room. You are validating your own experience.
You're making it real.
You are breaking the gaslighting cycle. You no longer need your family or your friends to confirm that the environment is unsafe. Your documentation becomes your anchor to reality.
Okay, so let's track the progression here. You document your reality. You accept that the good memories don't cancel out the bad ones. You stop trying to fight the unwinnable chess game, and you pack your bags.
Right.
You are standing at the front door, ready to cross the threshold into your own life. And suddenly you are hit with this paralyzing wave of guilt.
Yes.
Why does the person who is hurt the most, the one who has endured the abuse, feel the most guilty about escaping it?
It stems from how we are culturally conditioned to view guilt.
Okay, how so?
Well, we generally treat guilt as a moral compass. We assume that if we feel guilty, we must be doing something wrong.
Right, like we stole something.
Exactly. We think we are harming someone or we are being selfish. But in the context of escaping a toxic family dynamic, guilt is not a sign that you are making the wrong choice.
If it's not a moral compass telling you to stop, what is it?
It is simply the emotional friction of breaking a long-held role within a closed system.
Interesting.
Think of a family as a hanging mobile. If you pull down on one piece, the entire mobile shakes and tries to right itself.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Right. If your role for your entire life has been to cater to your family's emotions, to be the shock absorber for their stress, then prioritizing your own well-being is going to feel deeply unnatural.
Of course.
It feels like a betrayal because you are breaking the unspoken contract of the family system. The guilt is just the system's gravitational pull trying to drag you back into your designated role.
That reframing completely changes the landscape.
It really does.
The guilt doesn't mean stop, it just means you are changing the rules.
Exactly.
But the source material touches on a second layer of guilt that I found really heartbreaking.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just guilt about leaving, it's the guilt of having stayed so long in the first place.
Yes, the concept of forgiving your past self.
Yeah.
Once someone steps out of the fog and realizes how manipulative the environment was, the immediate reaction is often deep shame.
Yeah.
They look back at their 20s or even their 30s and think, why didn't I leave 5 years ago? Why did I let them treat me that way? I was so weak.
But the text offers such a beautifully empathetic counter to that. It says you stayed because you desperately wanted to fix the family.
You stayed because you are a hopeful, empathetic person.
Right.
You operated under the assumption that if you just communicated better, if you just tried harder to anticipate their needs, maybe things would change.
You just wanted it to work.
You stayed out of a fundamental human desire for connection and harmony. By validating that past fixer self, by looking at your past actions and saying, I see you, you tried your absolute best to heal this family, but it wasn't your job, you can cleanly pivot to your new goal.
That is so powerful.
It relieves the shame, which frees up the massive amount of energy you're going to need to rebuild your own life.
And you are going to need every ounce of that energy. Let's shift gears because, okay, you've forgiven yourself, you've conquered the guilt, but you can't pay a security deposit with emotional closure.
No, you definitely cannot.
How do people actually escape when they've been, in many cases, financially infantilized?
The text takes a surprisingly practical turn here, shifting from psychology to cold, hard logistics. And it's a necessary shift.
Yeah.
A lack of financial literacy is actually a feature, not a bug of a controlling family system.
Yeah, a feature, not a bug.
Yes, it is designed to keep the adult child dependent. If they never teach you how to manage a budget, how to understand a lease, or how to set up utilities, the outside world remains terrifying and inaccessible.
It's a form of structural control. Moving out requires a firm understanding of rent, fixed costs, bank accounts, and, managing communication contracts like your phone bill.
Absolutely.
If you leave purely on an emotional high, but you haven't calculated your food budget, the financial stress is going to quickly overwhelm the emotional relief.
Within days, usually.
Right. And here's where the advice gets counterintuitive again. The author suggests that as you are planning your escape, you should actively create a plan B. And that plan B might include the understanding that if things fail, you can temporarily move back in with the toxic family to regroup.
Yes.
When I read that, I was honestly baffled. Like, if the goal is to escape a toxic environment, why would you plan for a potential return? Doesn't that contradict the entire mission?
I know, it sounds totally contradictory, but it is a brilliant psychological strategy for overcoming paralysis.
Okay, how so?
The author is trying to dismantle the all-or-nothing mindset. When you are making a massive, terrifying life change, if you view it as a high-stakes, do-or-die leap.
Like, I have to get this right or I'm dead.
Exactly. Meaning, if this doesn't work perfectly, I am destitute and ruined forever, the fear becomes paralyzing.
Yeah.
That fear will keep you in the abusive home forever, because staying is a known misery, whereas leaving is an unknown terror.
It's like trying to learn how to swim by being dropped in the middle of the ocean. The sheer fear of drowning overrides your brain's ability to actually learn the strokes. Having a plan B is just putting on a life vest.
That is exactly the mechanism.
Yeah.
True independence isn't about never needing help again or never experiencing a setback.
Right?
It's about giving yourself the psychological permission to take a risk. If you know you have a safety net, even a highly flawed, toxic safety net like a childhood bedroom, the fear of taking action diminishes.
That makes a lot of sense.
A flexible path, one that allows for missteps, downsizing, or recalculations, is much more stable in the long run than cutting the rope bridge behind you and demanding perfection from yourself on day one.
So you're lowering the temperature of the whole situation. You're just taking a walk to see what's on the other side of the bridge, knowing you can walk back if it gets too scary.
Precisely.
Okay, let's say you've done it. You navigated the structural power dynamics, you documented your reality, you held the conflicting memories, processed the guilt, sorted the logistics, and you finally moved out.
The big day.
You wake up on the first morning in your new apartment. The Beep Dive explores what happens next. Because a really terrifying question immediately presents itself.
Who are you now?
Exactly. Who are you now?
For someone coming out of an environment of unconscious abuse, that question induces panic.
I can imagine.
When you have spent decades reading the moods of your family, anticipating their anger, and twisting your own personality into a pretzel just to keep the peace, you completely lose touch with your own internal compass.
You don't even know what you like anymore.
Your entire operating system has been geared toward threat detection and mitigation. When the threat is suddenly gone, the system crashes. It doesn't know how to run in peacetime.
It's like when you finally have the TV entirely to yourself after living with people who always controlled the remote.
Yes.
You sit there staring at Netflix for an hour, scrolling endlessly because you realize you literally do not know what you like to watch.
That is such a common experience. The text gets incredibly granular about this. It says people in this situation often don't know what they want to eat for breakfast.
Wow.
They don't know what time their body naturally wants to go to sleep. They have no idea how they want to spend a Saturday if there isn't someone there dictating the schedule.
It is a profound loss of the self.
It really is. And this is where the material delivers its final and perhaps most encouraging thesis. You do not need to find your grand life purpose immediately.
Oh, that's a relief. Right. You don't have to wake up on day one of your freedom and have a 5-year plan. Recovery and the rebuilding of the self happen through micro-choices.
Small, seemingly mundane decisions.
Exactly. Choosing to wake up at 8 a.m. instead of 7 a.m. just because you feel like it.
Yeah.
Decorating your room with a color your family would have heavily criticized, simply because it pleases your eye. Buying a type of cereal you were never allowed to have.
Or declining an invitation to a party you just don't feel like going to without having to invent a massive, convoluted excuse or fear a screaming match.
Yes.
It's so beautiful because you are literally reprogramming your nervous system. You're proving to your brain through these tiny, daily, low-stakes actions that it is finally safe to have a preference.
Yeah.
You are allowed to exist without justifying it.
But the author reminds us that this progress isn't a straight line.
Right, it never is.
The body remembers the old environment. You are going to have days where you feel intensely lonely or highly anxious despite being physically free and safe in your new place. The hypervigilance doesn't just vanish overnight. So what do you do when those days hit? When you're sitting in your safe apartment, but your heart is racing?
The key is to separate emotion from action.
Okay.
You might feel terribly sad or anxious on a Tuesday. Allow the emotion to exist. Don't fight it. But you still pay your electric bill.
Right.
You still make yourself a dinner you enjoy. You still take a walk. You do not let the emotional turbulence stop the logistical momentum of your new life.
You just keep moving forward.
You continue making micro choices until the nervous system realizes the war is over.
It's such a practical, grounded way to approach healing. We've covered a massive amount of ground today.
We really have.
Just to pull all these threads together, first, recognize the chessboard. Don't fight the structural power dynamic directly. It's a trap that leads to burnout.
Absolutely.
Second, allow yourself to hold conflicting memories, the good birthdays and the emotional manipulation, without having to choose one to validate your reality. Third, understand that guilt is just the friction of the family system trying to pull you back, not a stop sign. Forgive the part of you that tried to fix the unfixable.
Yes, that's huge.
Fourth, plan logistically so you aren't paralyzed by the fear of failure, and keep a life vest handy. And finally, reclaim your identity slowly through daily micro decisions.
If we zoom out and look at the bigger picture, it becomes clear that this text is about so much more than just moving out of a parent's house.
Oh, totally.
It is a universal manual for reclaiming your autonomy. The mechanics we discussed today, the invisible power dynamics, the guilt of breaking a role, the paralysis of logistics, they apply to any situation where your well-being has been hijacked by someone else's moods or someone else's structural control.
Which brings me to a final thought I want to leave our listeners with today, a thread to pull on that builds on everything we've just discussed.
I love this part.
If we become accustomed to unconscious abuse, if our brains are wired to constantly read the room and mitigate threats in our childhood homes, how much of that exact same dynamic are we unconsciously tolerating in our adult lives right now?
Oof. Yeah.
Right? Are we treating our bosses or our romantic partners like those family members? Are we sitting around silencing our own preferences, waiting for their permission to make our own micro choices?
It's a tough question, but so necessary.
It's something to really examine. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Take a hard look at where your choices are truly coming from this week, and we'll see you next time.